Hey everybody. So today we're going to talk about the astrology of twins. I got a question on YouTube about this, and I wanted to reply. I did reply to him, but I wanted to I started typing a reply, and it was like this big long ass wall of text, and I thought, what the fuck, just make a video about it. So that's what I'm doing. But I've had the honor of doing some chart work for a few different sets of twins. And I don't just mean like they're a twin. I mean like I did charts for like them and their twin. And it really is an honor to do this. And it really is, because it's such a cool thing to be able to do. When I see the charts of twins, I'm always looking for like the differences, right? Because twin charts, especially depending on how close you're born, can be very, very, very similar. Very, very, very similar. And psychologically, twins tend to need to individualize themselves. Now, this isn't always the case, right? There are twins that are born into families where the families see each twin as individuals, as individual people. But oftentimes, because they're twins, they kind of get lumped together. If that's not your experience, ignore this part. But so, there is usually a need with twins to individualize. While that relationship with the other twin is very, very important, it's a very important bond. There is a need to individualize beyond that bond too. So I like to take that approach when I work with the charts of twins. How can I individualize? What are the differences between them? There's so much that's fucking similar. What are the differences? What individualizes them from their sibling? And also I'll say, I know that there are astrologers that take a different approach than I'm going to talk about taking. I've seen before where some people will turn the second twin's date of birth to 3 months later or 3 months before. I don't do any of that. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you've been taught or that's how you feel like you should do it, go ahead and do that. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm going to talk about how I do it, and it's not that. I don't do it that way. But let me read the question. It says, I have questions about twins for anyone that can help me out. I'm a fraternal twin. I was born 1 minute before my brother. Our natal and draconic charts are pretty much exactly the same. The only difference is are the degrees of each planet. It's the same case for my niece and nephew who are twins. Same chart placements with different degrees because of being born a minute apart. I don't believe that my brother and I share a soul. But does that mean that souls are somehow connected spiritually? I've always felt that way and would like to know if anyone has thoughts on this. That also got me thinking about babies that were born within the same 5 minutes of me in my city on my birthday. Will those charts possibly be identical as well, other than the degrees of the planets? I'm going to answer the I'm going to answer the last part first, because I've thought about this. I was born at 8:04 a.m. in Houston, Texas on November 24th, 1987. Houston's fucking massive. I'm sure there were other babies born at 8:07 a.m. or 8:06 a.m. or, I'm sure there were. And we probably have very, very similar charts. So how does that work? Maybe those people that were born around the same time I was, or around the same time, anybody was. The missions in this lifetime are probably similar. It's almost like a soul family kind of thing, if you will. Or that's kind of how I think of it. Not necessarily that you share a soul, but you're a soul family you're part of a soul family in the sense that you came here to do kind of the same things, perhaps in different ways, right? What those things are, I have no fucking clue. But because I'm not looking at a chart. But there could be something going on along those lines. That's kind of where my mind goes with that. But I don't have anything actually concrete. It is something that I thought about. But that's kind of where my mind goes with that. It's all very abstract, so I don't really know, but that is where my mind goes. Okay, now on to the other stuff. When I look at twin charts, this is where I will implement degree theory. If you're not familiar with degree theory, That's when, like, okay, 0 degrees of a sign is like the purest expression of that sign energy. Whatever sign we're talking about. 1 degree is an Aries degree. 2 degrees is a Taurus degree. 3 degrees is a Gemini degree. 4 degrees is a Cancer degree. 5 degrees is a Leo degree. 6 degrees is a Virgo degree, and so on and so forth till you get to 12 degrees, which is a Pisces degree, and then it starts over. And it ends with 29 degrees being a Leo degree. And then, you know, the cycle would start over again at 0 degrees of the next sign. So this is, you could also work with deacons as well, if you wanted to. You certainly could. I don't know, let's say you had one twin who was born. They had their, I don't know, their moon at 19 degrees of some sign. And then the next twin had their moon at, I don't know, 20 degrees of a sign. Well, if you wanted to work with deacons, let's say that moon was in, Aries. The twin with their moon at 19 degrees, that would put their moon in a Leo deacon. The twin with their moon at 20 degrees would put their moon in a Sagittarius deacon. So that would change things. That is if your moon is like that, where the deacons switch to the next one. So you could definitely go that way. Degree theory, though, if you were to use those same degrees, 19 degrees is a Libra degree. So let's say we're talking about somebody with one twin that has, both twins have an Aries moon, but let's say one is at 19 degrees Aries. That twin might be a little bit more into balancing or into relationships or into harmony, having their moon in a Libra degree, than say their twin who has at 20 degrees Aries, that would be a Scorpio degree. That might make that twin more intense, more magnetic, even more chaotic, or, you know, whatever kinds of Scorpio keywords you want to throw out. But those are definitely some ways that you can try to differentiate the planets, you know, and keep in mind this stuff, like the way that I used degree theory, it's not in your face usually. It's really more of an undercurrent. Like both twins would have an Aries moon in this case. It really is more of an undercurrent of how, you know, like how it operates. Yeah, so it's not in your face. I'm not trying to say that they have like they would then have like a Libra moon or a Scorpio moon. That's not what I mean. But those sign energies would function as undercurrents in each twin's chart. Another thing you can look at are house cusps. One set of twins that I'm thinking of that I did some work for about a year ago. Lovely, lovely people. If y'all are watching this, I love y'all. But they had, like, okay, you can also do this with house cusps. Like, I can't remember exactly what house cusps it was, what houses it was in their chart. But they had a couple houses that were different, like the degrees were different. Like, I think one of them had, one house cusp was like at 23 degrees. The other one had the house cusp at 24 degrees. I can't remember the sign. Let's just say it was Taurus. So the twin that had the house cusp at 23 degrees, that's an Aquarius degree. So that's going to give kind of an Aquarius undercurrent to that house that has Taurus on the cusp. Whereas the twin that had the house cusp at 24 degrees, it's going to give kind of a Pisces undercurrent to that house that has Taurus on the cusp. So that also changes the flavor of that house. Again, it's more of an undercurrent. It's not in your face. But this is another thing that you can look at. And this is another thing that I do like to look at to differentiate between two people in this context. Another thing, okay, so the twins that I'm thinking of, they were born like, what was it? Like a minute or two apart. They were born very close together. But, and this is where dispositions, I think, become very, well, I mean, I think planetary dispositions are important regardless, but this is where they really become important, because one of the twins that I'm thinking of, the planetary, I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been Gemini. Was it Gemini? Gemini on the cusp of the 7th house? Maybe. I might be wrong about that. Just pretend like I'm not wrong. Gemini, if you're watching this. Gemini on the cusp of the 7th house, right? Planetary ruler is Mercury. In one twin's chart, Mercury fell in the 12th house. In one twin's chart, Mercury fell in the 1st. That changes a fuckload in terms of what the 7th house bends to, because the 7th house will bend or serve whatever house the planetary ruler of the sign on the house cusp falls. So for one twin, you know, one twin, the 7th house stuff would maybe be easier than for the other that had, you know, like for the person, for the twin that had Mercury in the 1st, it's more conscious than for the twin that had Mercury in the 7th, or sorry, in the 12th. So these are also things that you can look at. Now I realize the question here, the person and their brother were only born a minute apart, but that can happen even with twins born a minute apart, because the example that I'm thinking of, that I did, the twins that I did work for, they were only born like a minute or two apart, and this happened. And that does change things. It does change a lot. Yeah, it does. It can change a lot. Specifically in the way that like 7th house is like what you attract, right? It's one-on-one relationships. It's balance and harmony and shit like that. It's even the shadow part of yourself. The descendant part is anyway. So yeah, having one planetary ruler in the 12th and one planetary ruler in the 1st definitely changes things for both of them. It individualizes them. Yeah, so these are definitely things that I would look at. I mean, even when you've got even twins that are born very, very close together, you can wind up with differences that make a big difference. Sometimes you can even see like the rising change within 5 minutes, which would make a whole fuckload of difference. But yeah, these are kind of the things that I would look at when I'm doing readings for twins. And then the other question, does that mean that all souls are somehow connected spiritually? Yes, I do believe that all souls, regardless if they are twins or not, that we are all one. We are all one. We are all connected to source. Source is connected to all of us. This is my belief. You don't have to share them, but this is my belief. But I do think that bonding is very, very, it's even more heightened in the case of twins, because you literally grew in the womb together. You know, there is something there. It does feel like it would amplify that sense of oneness, which I think is also why the individualization is so important too. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that to the person that asked this question, I don't necessarily think that you and your brother share a soul, but I definitely think you are very, very spiritually connected, I'm sure. And same thing with the case of your niece and your nephew. I'm sure they are too. But yeah, I hope this answered your question. It was a very good question. Yeah, it was a good question. I'm going to go ahead and head off though. If you ever want me to, if you are a twin and you're curious about having me read for you in this context, it really would be an honor. This kind of work is very, very cool from both an astrological and a psychological point of view. If you're ever interested, let me know. Or just readings in general. I'll put where you can find me in the description box. All right. I will see you all later.